Well, hello, everyone. Hope you are doing fantastic. This is the 6-week SEO challenge, 6-week SEO workshop, whatever you want to call it. This is week number 2. Excited to have everybody on here today. And we're going to be talking about a lot of technical stuff today. So I'll try not to go geek on you and go overboard on the technical stuff. But this stuff is a really good foundation of things that you need to know so that you're making good decisions for your business going forward. As always, this, of course, is sponsored by Window Treatment Marketing Pros, my company, as well as the Custom Home Decor Network. If you have not checked that group out yet, customhomedecornetwork.com, and excited to have them. I'm on the board of directors for that. We've finished building their website, launched it, and we are obviously using it as an SEO tool, both for our own business as well as everybody in the home decor space. So if you're in that space, you should join and get your profile updated. A lot of really cool things that you can take advantage of, the power of the network and the SEO benefits thereof. But it's a great group. I definitely recommend you check that out if you haven't already. I'm going to use the same slide I used last week. I don't remember where the questions are, the questions and answering. There's a chat thing. But if you need to ask anything in the middle of this as I'm going through it, I'm going to open the chat here and make sure that I'm monitoring that as well. So all right, got that open. So if you have any questions along the way, just pop the questions in there, and I'll be happy to make sure that I answer those while we are on this live taping, so that we can kind of see, answer any questions that maybe something I overlooked or something like that. Also, this is week number 2. As I said, I just pasted in the week 2 homework. So you can get that by going to bit.ly/WTMP -6-week-tasks. You can plug that right into there, and that will give you the 6-week kind of like the route planner is what we're calling it, homework for the week, and links to anything that you might need, anything like that. So all of that is in there as well. So I am going to jump into some of the hosting stuff. So first of all, what is hosting? Well, hosting is the real estate where your website lives. So in most cases, all of our clients are on WordPress, and WordPress is a platform, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that is a software set that you download and then you install on a hosting system. So when somebody types in a domain name, what happens is, if they type in Joe's Window Treatments or joesawnings.com, what happens is they type that in and the browser goes usually to your ISP or your internet service provider. They have a listing of all the different domains and where they should point to. So if I type in joesawnings.com, my computer goes to that, finds that list and says, where does joesawnings.com live? Oh, it's on this server at this IP address. And then it goes and connects to that server, says, I'm looking for Joe's Awnings. Oh, here it is. Here are the related files. It downloads all of that and produces the website, right, which you see in short order. All this obviously happens very quickly, but there is a master list in the sky, I guess, of where all of the websites are in relation to what server they're on, that kind of stuff. So when you're typing something in, you are ending up on that particular website's hosting, and you're downloading their homepage or whatever page you happen to be going to at that particular moment. So the real estate where all of those files live is the hosting account. There are a ton of hosting companies out there. I started my own hosting company way back in 1997, and as a thing to help our own clients, quite honestly. The nice thing about that is we're able to control the server, the memory, how fast it runs, all of these things that you could get at other hosting companies as well. A little bit more personal with us, obviously. You have somebody to talk to, that kind of stuff. But anyway, so there are a couple things when you're looking at purchasing hosting. There's a couple things. Obviously, price. But price is not a huge factor. You can get hosting as cheap as, $3-4 a month from somebody like GoDaddy.com. However, I would definitely not recommend that, but you can. The other thing is uptime, downtime. So how often does the server go down? Does it need routine maintenance? Does it crash a lot because I'm only paying $3-4 a month for it, and it always seems to be breaking? So uptime, downtime, very important to find out how often or the server crashes, if you will. And servers do crash from time to time. Hard drives fail, things happen, but server hosting companies have redundancy in place. They have things that are able to keep that downtime to a very, very small number. Usually uptime is over 99%, 99.8, 99.9 is obviously great. 100 is perfect, but that's not going to happen. But very, very little downtime. So very important that you ask about that or find out what their average is when you're looking for a hosting company. Next is speed. I kind of mentioned this earlier. How fast is the server? How fast are the hard drives? How fast, when I type in joesawnings.com, how fast does the server respond and give that back to that user? This is a big thing because this is part of what Google is using to determine your rankings. So if you, again, have a cheap server company or you're on a server with 3,000 other websites, chances are the data throughput and output is going to be a little bit slower. And that will affect your overall rankings. If you have a competitor who has a very fast website, Google looks at that and determines the usability of the website as one of their factors. So very important that you pay attention to the overall speed of a server as well. And last, location. Location as in physical location. Is it in the US? Is it in China? Is it in Russia? Is it in, wherever it happens to be? Obviously, something in the US is best. It's hard to find something centrally located. Usually you're going to be around the coast. You're going to be Texas, Florida, Seattle, somewhere around the edge, but that's okay. In the terms of data transfer across the US, it's very quick. But yeah, the closer you are to your location, the better. And there are some ways to kind of thwart that and fix it. But definitely you want a US server. You do not want something overseas. All right, let's see. Another thing that I think is very important is security. And probably, I'd say a year and a half ago now, Google finally said, if your site is not 100% secure, then that is going to be another ranking factor for them, for or against you, right? So what you need to have that 100% is what's called an SSL certificate. And those are fairly cheap. Some hosting companies charge somewhere between $75 and $125 a year. Other hosting companies like mine offer it free as part of the hosting package. So very important that you have that certificate and that it, when you pull up your website, that you see the lock, the little lock symbol. So let me pull up a website here. So let's do WT Marketing Pros. So when you pull up our website, right up here at the top left, you see the lock symbol. And that's very important that you find that on every page of your website, that it always has that lock. Now, sometimes what can happen is there are pages that you built maybe before you got the SSL certificate. and they don't show the lock there. So that one looks good. I think all of mine are going to show up with the lock, but sometimes there are pages that show up without the lock, and it will actually say now not secure or not non-secure. Very important that you get those pages fixed, that every page on your site is 100% secure. And the only way to do that is with the lock symbol there. Now, if you come across a page that is not 100% secure, one thing that you can do is post that into a tool called whynopadlock.com. Why no padlock? And all you do is plug in your domain there. Now, mine's not going to have any problems because the lock is there. But if the lock was not there, I could post in my URL, hit test page, and it will go through its little iterations there to see what the problem is. And then it will tell you, well, this image that you uploaded is not secure, or this other thing that you did is not secure, or the SSL certificate is not valid, something like that. You can see you have no problems here. Everything's good. This is excuse me, this is a very old system, that no big deal. If you have problems, it usually shows up down here at the bottom with some sort of a red X or something like that. You need to fix this in order to get that lock. And this would be something that you would need to repeat for every page on your site that doesn't have the lock symbol showing up there. So very important that you have security on your site, that you go ahead and get that SSL certificate, because it is really a ranking factor. And for the super cheap price that it is, if not free, it's a no-brainer to make sure that you get that in place and up to date. The other thing is, some websites or some hosting companies renew their SSL certificates usually every 6 months. So you need to make sure that it is always up to date. So if you get a site on a hosting company, they give you a typically one of the free ones. If they give you one of those, make sure that after 6 months that it does renew and update, and that you're still showing 100% secure. All right, next is page speed. So another ranking factor, how fast your page loads and how fast your server is, all those things. So a couple cool tools here. My favorite tool for this is GT Metrics, GTMetrix.com, GT Metrics. And all you do is plug in your URL here. Now, I am logged into this. I don't pay for this service, but if you log in, set up an account and log in, you get results faster. So no cost, it just works a little better. So I'll put in my website, marketingpros.com. And what it does is it goes through and, again, does its little iterations here, and then it comes back and says, here is your final score. And this particular service actually checks a couple different versions of website as far as location and tools that decide how fast your website is. They give you a score, you know, like an A or a B or an F if it's not working well. But you get a score, we'll see here in a minute. And then it also gives you a list of things that you could go fix in order to help speed up your site. Now, WordPress websites are typically pretty quick right off the bat. So you can see that I scored a 70 and a 63, so not great. So what is one thing that I can do here, you know, in order of things that I could fix? Well, probably the biggest one here, obviously, defer parsing of JavaScript. Well, what in the world is that? Well, all of these things need to be fixed and loaded in a different order, quite honestly. And that's something that I just, you know, I need to get to, but super technical, probably not a huge project that I want to take on right at the minute, right? And you're going to be the same way with something like this. However, something like leverage browser caching, which is next on our list to talk about, this is a pretty cool service. So caching is basically where, let me back up. So in WordPress, when somebody requests your homepage, the way that WordPress works is it has some files, and everything related to your site is stored in a database. So when somebody requests your website, it says, okay, I need the logo. Okay, I need the header. Okay, I need the navigation. Okay, I need the homepage content. Okay, I need a picture. And every one of these is a query to the database to generate that homepage. And then you got the footer and you got all your links and everything else. So one homepage could be 40, 50, or hundreds of queries to the database to generate that page. Again, obviously this all happens in seconds. In my case, 16.9 seconds. That's not fantastic at all. And when we get to people on mobile devices, they might not wait 17 seconds for my page to come up, right? So this is where it gets really important. What caching does is caching loads that same homepage, waits for all those queries, sees that final homepage, takes a snapshot of that homepage, and then anybody else who comes along and requests the homepage, it just delivers the snapshot. So much faster. It's not querying the database over and over. And these caching programs make it very quick. They also look at your website multiple times to make sure the snapshot is always up to date. But pretty cool little service that you can have. So again, some hosting companies offer this free. Some offer it for a very low price. And then there are some third-party systems that will help with your caching as well. Some other hosting companies offer these as well, but they need to be turned on. And most likely that is the case here, is the fact that I just haven't turned it on for my own site, which is maybe somewhat embarrassing, but it'll be fixed shortly, right? So the caching really helps speed up because it's not hitting the database all the time. Now, the other side of this, when you do update a page on your site, you need to make sure that you clear that caching so that it is loading the latest version of your page. Now, in WordPress, this is a pretty easy thing to do. So what I can do is go to the back end of our website. And if you're hosting with us, we use a service called Lightspeed. And if you have WordPress, then you can actually just go to plugins and make sure that that Lightspeed caching plugin is installed. And I'm pretty sure it is because I actually see the logo right here on it, but I'll show you where that's at. Lightspeed cache right here. There it is activated, it is running and working well. So it's very likely that that I just need to purge all this cache, make sure that it rebuilds new versions of it, that it is loading correctly, and that will probably drastically improve my overall scores and numbers. So that is caching. There's also something called a CDN, or a cloud delivery network. Very similar to caching. They take snapshots of your page, but what they do is they actually put your website snapshot on servers all across the country. So no matter where somebody is accessing your website from, they are downloading the snapshot that is closest physically to them. And so if my server is in Tampa and I am in Seattle, without caching, I am typing in a domain and I'm going to the server in Tampa, pulling that information back, and it's loading up. With a CDN, what can happen is a copy of that snapshot will be on a server in Seattle. So I'm in Seattle, I type that in, boom, boom, boom. It's a lot faster that way. My favorite CDN is Cloudflare, and it has a free service as well, cloudflare.com. All you do is set up your account. There's a free option. There's obviously others that are a little bit better, but for most window treatment awning type companies, you can just use the free one. So grab that Cloudflare account, get that set up on your site. They also integrate the SSL certificate with Cloudflare, so that is another way to kind of get around having to get one, especially if your hosting company wants to charge you for that. You can use Cloudflare and use their SSL certificate to kind of get around that, circumvent that system, and still have a secure website, which is great. Again, you can log in here, you can clear the caching, all that kind of stuff as well. So definitely worth having both the local cachings with something like Lightspeed. There's also, what is that? Let me go over here and just go to add new. If you're not hosting with us, then obviously Lightspeed might not work for your system. It does depend on if that is loaded onto your server. So let me see what else there is. There's one that's called Rocket, I think. So there's Lightspeed. WP Super Cache is very, very popular. That one works really well. And boy, I thought there was one called something to do with rockets, but I can't remember it, and I don't see it on here right off the top of my head. I have used WP Optimize in the past as well, so that one does work. This is not the one I was talking about. Boy, I wish I could remember what that one was called. Can't off the top of my head. But anyway, there are a couple different ones out there. They're all free to set that up. So, you know, if Lightspeed is on your server, then this is the one to use. And obviously the one that we recommend as well. So, all right. By the way, if you want to know a little bit more information about a domain or about your own domain, one thing that you can use is a tool called Whois, and it's whois.sc. And when you go there, you can actually type in, it looks like it forwards to whois.domaintools.com, but you can type in a domain name here, and it will give you information on that domain as far as where it was registered. So you can see I registered that at GoDaddy, where it's pointing to as far as what server it's pointing to. So you can see that we're using Cloudflare for that. Gives you a little bit of information about it. I can also click here, and if the domain name was not registered privately, then sometimes you can get some other information here about who the person was that bought it, maybe even their address, things like that. But this, if you buy the domain privacy, which is typically an upsell when you're purchasing your .com, then information does not show here. And you can see that there's not a lot of information here about myself, my address, any of that kind of stuff. So really nice to have that, that privacy add on there if you want that as well. So Whois is a great tool to find out a little bit more information about you or a domain that you're thinking of, and your competitors obviously as well, if you want to know that kind of information. All right. Also on page speed, I did mention GTmetrix. There's also another one, a Google tool called Page Speed Insights. And this is another free tool. So again, you put in your information here, and it will give you a score along with a list of things to fix. And typically you take that list, send that to a developer and say, you know, can we fix these? What will it cost? How much time will it take? That kind of stuff. And typically, similar to the Cloudflare, I don't know if I can go back. Yeah, it will give it in order of what needs to be fixed first, which is really nice. So you can fix some of the bigger stuff first, and it will drastically improve your speed overall. All right, let's see. Website platforms. I did want to mention this. So most of our clients are on WordPress, and if a new client comes to us, they are going to be put on a WordPress system if they are not. There are other website platforms out there. Some popular ones are Weebly. Wix is another popular one. These are really nice. They're super cheap, and you can build a website without any website knowledge and get a decent looking site up there for not a lot of money. The problem with those kinds of sites, the big problem with those, is that you are building your website on rented land. So if that system decides to go down, change, or you want to do some things with your website that their simple system does not do, you probably can't do it. They're locked down really tight. So you can't take your website and move it to a different hosting company because you really don't own the website. You are renting the software to build the website. However, you can't move that website from one platform to another, which is a huge downturn. Also, at the end of the day, you don't own it. We actually had a client. We built a new website for her. She was on Weebly. When she went to launch her website, she realized that she didn't even own her own domain name. So we had to go through a process that has delayed everything 7 days, 7 to 10 days to acquire that domain name. Luckily, in the case of Weebly, they will transfer that ownership. Some people won't. If you had a different developer, web developer, build your website, they may have registered that domain name in their own name, and they may not want to transfer it. They should, and I'm a huge proponent of that. You know, the business owner should own their own website and their own domain name and their own properties. But sometimes you don't know, right? That's why you're taking classes like this one. So very important to own your domain name and do a Whois search on it like we did, and make sure that it comes up with your name and not some company or somebody else that owns your own domain name. You want to make sure you have that. If you do come across that and you don't own it, first thing you want to do is create an account at GoDaddy, for instance, and start a domain transfer to get that into your own ownership account. And usually that transfer is 10, 12 bucks. You know, they usually just make you pay for a year registration, which is fine. And if the other company had registered it for 5 years and you transfer it, then what happens is they just lump on another year to it. So really no downside. You own it at the end of the day as well as you should own it at the end of the day. That's the nice thing about something like WordPress is if the hosting company is performing poorly, you can pick up and move and put your website on a different server, and no one will know any different, you know, other than it might load faster, load quicker, not be down, that kind of stuff. So really nice to have that. Wix, Weebly, those kind of systems won't allow you to do that. So just be careful about building something, you know, on rented land, if you will. All right. One last thing I wanted to mention, we're kind of going to wrap it up fairly quickly today, which is nice. I wanted to mention Google Webmaster Tools, or what's now called Google Search Console. This is a free tool service from Google that we will be using in a future session here. But it would be good to have your account already set up on that. So very important that you go ahead and get this started. And what you would do is you would go to google.com/webmasters and log in, of course, and then set up your domain, claim your own website if you haven't already done so. And sometimes they'll give you a couple steps. Okay, you need to do this, you need to add this to here, you need to verify ownership, those sort of things. So if you run across those sort of prompts and you're not sure what to do, take a screenshot, post it into the Facebook group, and I'll be happy to help you get through that so that you have that claimed and ready. The other reason we want to do that now is because it takes a week or two for data to start filling in. And they don't really do that until you claim your website. So very important that you do that so that a couple weeks down the road, when we start talking about that, that you already have that data in place. And that the link for that will be in the route planner. Everything you need to do will be in there. And of course, as I mentioned, if you do have any trouble, just post in the Facebook group there, and we will make sure that we help you get that answered. So wanted to make sure you do that. There are some other things that are going to help you inside Webmaster Tools around related to your domain and things like that. So it'll tell you if you have unsecure pages, if you have pages that people are having problems reaching, things of that sort. So a really cool tool that we'll dig into in a couple weeks. You need to get signed up for that right away. So that's it for this week. Short and sweet. And as always, don't forget to go to your 6-week test, look at any kind of homework you might have, especially around getting an SSL certificate if you haven't got that security yet. Run your speed tests, make sure everything is up to date, make sure that your website is loading quickly. And if you're not on a platform like WordPress, that you at least start thinking about the process of getting moved to a system like that, rebuilding your site on a system where you have ultimate control. So that's it. I really do appreciate you jumping on for week number 2. Next week, we are talking all about on-page SEO. So finally, we're going to dig into specifics on pages on your website that will influence Google and will help you start to rank higher and get more traffic to your site. So we're going to go through some of the more SEO, more technical SEO related things so you understand what they are, what they do, how they influence Google, Yahoo, and Bing, and how you can keep track of them to see if your website is improving in their eyes. So that's next week on Page SEO. Excited to help you with that as well. And I appreciate your day. Appreciate you too. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we will see you in week number 3. Thanks, everybody. Bye.